Welcome to Creature Guide Live Daily News. For those of you that don't know, my name is Ethan. Today we're going over sauropods, eggs, as well as crocodilomorphs and marsupials over in Australia. And we're streaming on both Rumble, YouTube, and Kick. So from Science News, let's dive back into the Mesozoic era. Paleontologists find perfectly preserved embryo inside 80 million year old Titanosaurian egg. Paleontologists recently found well preserved dinosaur eggs in an enormous nesting ground of Titanosaurian sauropod dinosaurs that lived about 80 million years ago, or the Cretaceous period, in what is now Patagonia, Argentina. In a paper in the journal Current Biology, they now describe an almost intact embryonic skull from one of these eggs, which shows that Titanosaurian dinosaurs had stereoscopic vision and an unusual elongated horn on the front of the face, which was then lost in adulthood. This is quite new. Despite this discovery occurring a few years ago, I have not heard of this. I mean, it's quite strange. And it's not even talking about specifically the egg tooth, which would be on the Titanosaur hatchling, but some mysterious horn, which is quite odd. And what's also astounding is that this is occurring around 80 million years ago during the late Cretaceous. Um, which is not a well, it's during a time in the Cretaceous when many titanosaurs had already gone extinct. Technically, that had already occurred like 15 million years beforehand. So it's wow. Is that the skull? That is Yeah, it's quite astounding. It almost looks like a baby bird to an extent. I mean, sauropods are closely related to different species of birds today, like ostriches, rheas, guinea fowl, penguins. So it's not surprising that it has that sort of a resemblance. And as well, they're also closely related to the different species of theropod dinosaurs over in the other lineage of the Saurischian clade of dinosaurs. Okay, so the specimen represents the first 3D preserved embryonic skull of a sauropod sauropodomorph, said lead author Dr. Martin Kundrat, a researcher at Pavel Josef Safarik University. The most striking feature is head appearance, which implies that hatchlings of giant dinosaurs may differ in where and how they lived in their earliest stages of life. But because it differs in facial anatomy and size from the sauropod embryos of Aqua Mahuevo, Patagonia, we cannot rule out that it may represent a new Titanosaurian dinosaur. Oh, gosh, actually, that wasn't hitting me. I was actually expecting this to already be of a renowned species of Titanosaur or other species of sauropod. So, this is quite striking. The preservation of embryonic dinosaurs preserved inside their eggs is extremely rare. We have found the eggs in different nests of different species of horned dinosaurs, such as the ceratopsians, but it tends to be with smaller species like Protoceratops or Psittacosaurs. And I'm referring to animals that don't weigh any more than 300 pounds. At least when it comes to Protoceratops, are pushing around 130 kilograms. Psittacosaurus, not much more than maybe 80 or 90 pounds, are pushing around 40 kilograms. We do have thousands of different preserved eggs coming in from different species of unknown, um, likely different species of sauropods that we know of. But the question is who directly laid those eggs in different areas of late Cretaceous Patagonia and over in different parts of France, I believe, with certain sauropods, and a renowned nesting site over in India with over 256 eggs in the region. So where were we? So, but be oh, imagine the huge sauropods from Jurassic Park. Well, those are brachiosaurs, and we don't have any nest preservations from brachiosaurs. If we do have any eggs, they're simply fragments. But even then, I don't believe we have discovered any sauropod or any brachiosaurus eggs. Brachiosaurus also existed over in different parts of Colorado, Utah, Wyoming, much of the United States around 150 million years ago in the Jurassic. So Dr. Kundrat, oh, wait a second, and consider that the tiny skulls of their babies still inside their eggs are just a couple of centimeters long. Dr. Kundrat, Dr. Nuds, and their colleagues used an imaging technology called synchrotron microtomography to study the inner structure of bones, teeth, and soft tissues of the embryonic dinosaur. The scans allow the scientists to find hidden details, including tiny teeth preserved deeply in tiny jaw sockets. I was wondering about that. I mean, that's really good to hear. Here, actually, I'll click back on it. Oh, I guess it's really hard to tell from this point of view.
So that's not the wait, that's not the eye socket?
No, I think this would be. Sauropods had relatively decent size eye sockets compared to their skull size, even though their skulls were relatively small compared to the rest of their body. So, also indicating quite a small brain as well. Let's see. So they also found partly calcified elements of the embryonic brain case and what appeared to be the remains of temporal muscles. They also reconstructed the most plausible appearance of the skull in Titanosaurian sauropods before hatching. Okay. Um, let's bring up, I guess, somebody else specifically, or it could be him, Titanosaurus.
Cameron Barrios said, sorry. Karen Barrios said, hi.
So, let's see, Titanosaurus. And hello, random Archosauromorph in the chat. Okay, so what are we going at here? Okay, so this animal existed over in Argentina around 75 to 80 million years ago. So around the same time
Wait, I haven't
as
put a picture up.
oh, right. That wasn't hitting me. Sauropods or titanosaurs in general are not common during this time. And
Here,
they
I'll
would
start with your favorite.
all right. That's interesting. This animal kind of looks like something between an iguanodontid to an extent, like an early reconstruction, an early theropharian, or possibly like something such as Scelidosaurus from the early Jurassic, over 170. No, way off. Somewhere between 180 to 190 million years ago.
Wait, here's another.
Uh, I don't know
Sorry,
what
I couldn't
this
help it.
I don't know what this seahorse, Japanese,
Godzilla looking thing.
yeah, is doing here. Now, it might have been based off of a sauropod. It's very possible. This seems to be a somewhat older reconstruction, but maybe not. I guess when it comes to the titanosaurs in general, the problem is that its tail is dragging on the ground. And this is not a sauropod trait. This used to be an early theory for a wide range, pretty much every single species of dinosaur back in the 1800s as well as the early 1900s. You could even say that this was still occurring in different reconstructions in the 1970s, possibly even to the 80s. It would still occur with like a wide range of dinosaur toys, and while that's might sound odd to mention, it's still kind of promoting the um, false theory. And also, in many cases, it would be breaking the dinosaurs' tails in general. We don't really discuss this specific individual. I didn't even see the movie, but this is from Jurassic World. Gosh, it was such a disgrace. I don't even remember the name. It wasn't Dominion. Gosh, what was it? Wasn't I don't remember.
Is it the last one they did?
Yeah, it's not even hitting me. I think was supposed to represent Dreadnoughtus, possibly, though it could be Titanosaurus. Um, Okay, so apparently there's debate for the animal. I believe specifically there's a species of Titanosaurus. Um, there seems to be something going on with the invalid or validity of the genus. But if it does exist, the animal would reach somewhere around 60 to 70 feet in length, possibly a little longer, or pushing around 20 to 22 meters and pushing around 30 tons. So this was a medium-sized species of sauropod, much larger than the Dicryosaur lineage or Rebeccasaur lineage of diplodocid dinosaurs, which at this point had already gone extinct. They have been extinct for over 10 million years.
What's with the tail?
This individual has a problem. This is one of those just bad models of um, any sauropod in general. This wouldn't represent anybody. And yes, the tail is fairly off. The core, the legs are a bit too small compared to its body size, also just short. And the neck is far off. Yeah, this is a bit better for a Titanosaurus, but it's giving it osteoderms, which is certainly possible. This likely was a member of the Lithostrodiae
There's a lot of them doing that.
lineage of sauropod dinosaurs. And I don't believe, though, that Titanosaurus is a member of Saltosauridae, which encases a smaller group of Lithostrodiae titanosaurs. That many of these species we have preserved skin, showing that these animals were covered in heavily osteodermed armor, at least around the core of their body, and even the tail to an extent, like towards the very back of it. Let's see. This animal or this model more of like represents some of the older Diplodocus sort of representations. This would also occur on certain other sauropods, with the spiked osteoderms running along the back of the neck, the back, all the way towards um, possibly like the halfway end of the tail. But for a Titanosaur, I mean, it is an interesting model, but it's still a bit off. Actually, you could almost say it has a bit of like a apatosaurus sort of an accumulation to it. And there shouldn't the toes are a bit off as well, especially the back feet. There should really only be 3 toed claws
Looks like he has
and also
flippers.
quite curved. Yeah, they are a bit off. It's almost like he's walking on part of his ankle to an extent. And all dinosaurs were walking explicitly on their toes. Okay, this is good to see. This is a much better representation of the Titanosaurus. This does look like somebody kind of took that like a certain snapshot from Planet Dinosaur when it was nesting and made their own depiction of it, which I mean still looks good. I think the neck might need more muscle. I think it's a bit skinny. This we do have evidence for a wide variety of well, likely a variety of titanosaurs creating nests and laying their eggs in close proximity to each other. So they were quite gentle, despite some of these behemoths weighing over 75 tons. Let's see. Now, the question is whether or not these animals were staying behind to take care of their hatchlings. Probably not, considering how much these animals had to um, not just feed, but also simply move just to um, stay physically fit. And also, you had it where there were different species of carnivores in the area and it possibly could cause issues. And I'm not just talking about smaller belly sword species in the area or even the pterosaurs, crocodilomorphs in the region, but even the larger members of the, you could say, a belly sword family or carcharodontosaurs, depending on what time in the Cretaceous that we're referring to. Well, this is definitely a much larger specimen. I don't think this is Titanosaurus specifically. This could be one of the larger species, possibly like even Dreadnoughtus and what is it? The Monerosaurus, but Monerosaurus might be a bit smaller. Um, let's see. Actually, let's head back to the article. So they also reconstructed the most plausible appearance of the skull in Titanosaurian sauropods before hatching. Their findings suggest that the baby sauropods may have hatched out of the egg with the help of a thickened prominence rather than a bony egg tooth. Okay, so that's likely what they were referring to, something that resembled an egg tooth, but seems to be something else. But I'm guessing it plays the same role. So Titanosaurian embryo. Monochromatic face. Yeah. He has skull on the bottom.
It's a
Is
tip of it's what they're talking about, right?
yeah, the upper part of the snout. Yeah, wow, that's exquisitely preserved. It's interesting. Yeah, this helps where the eye sockets would be pointing. It's almost like they had binocular vision to a certain extent. Really not that bad. Very, very much developed. Let's see. The study authors also uncovered evidence that the embryonic dinosaurs used calcium derived from the eggshell long before they were ready to hatch. They found that the Titanosaurian hatchlings emerged with a temporary monkeratid single horned face, retracted openings on the nose, nares, and early binocular vision. We suggest an alternative head appearance for babies of these Patagonian giants. We were able to reconstruct the embryonic skull prior to hatching. The embryos possessed a specialized craniofacial anatomy that precedes the postnatal transformation of the skull in adult sauropods. Yeah, so it does seem that, like a wide variety of different lineages of dinosaurs, almost all of them, they would have gone through several just morphological changes throughout their growth stages. Considering animals like the titanosaurs could have taken over 30 years to reach somewhat full grown size.
That's a lot of eating over 30 years.
It is I don't know exactly how much food just for one specific individual that we're referring to. It also depends on the species, but you have it where even the smaller species of titanosaurs weighing somewhere around 7 to 8 tons are taking in well over 300 pounds of food or pushing around 130 kilograms each day, at least. So, like in terms of the whole year, it's just not hitting me how much. And also, you would likely have had days where they're consuming much more, possibly during the dry season, and they're consuming less, not because they feel like they should, but because um, there just isn't much around, depending on where they're migrating. I'm guessing if they're headed to a certain region on time, then they're going to still have plenty of food to eat. So, part of the skull of these embryonic sauropods was extended into an elongated snout or horn so that they possessed a peculiarly shaped face. It is quite interesting. I mean, they do have quite almost narrow snouts compared to their later juvenile, teenage, and even just adult stages. I wouldn't say maybe necessarily teenage, just subadult would be a better term. Because when these animals were teenagers, they still weren't close to full grown. Okay, this was really good to see. Let's head forward in time towards the Cenozoic era. Okay, from Australian Dot Museum, marsupials found alive after 6,000 years of extinction. Wow.
Which means they never went extinct.
So, like, since the uh, late Mesolithic or early Neolithic period. So about 5,000 years after the Ice Age or the Pleistocene epoch ended. Published today, mammoths are still around at this point, and possibly there are indications of certain species of ground sloth. So published today in the records of the Australian Museum Journal, groundbreaking research led by Professor Tim Flannery, Australian Museum Distinguished Visiting Fellow, and Professor Christopher Helgen, President and CEO of Bishop Museum, indicates two marsupial species previously thought to be extinct for over 6,000 years have been discovered living in the remote rainforests of the Bogakop Peninsula in Papua, Indonesia. Oh, I was hoping it was Australia itself. That's fine. Um, okay, where are we? Okay, so we're over in Papua and Indonesia. So I'm guessing the western section of Papua New Guinea. So you have it where there's the whole island. The western section is in quote owned by Indonesia, and the right or the eastern side of the island is I honestly don't know. Um, anyway, let's keep going. The identification of the pygmy long-fingered possum, Dactylonax kemwii, and the ring-tailed glider, Tos iamarensis, two Lazarus taxa
Wait, I thought the
species.
ringtail glider was still around.
Um,
I mean, I guess it's
There
saying
well, there's, at least, like, over in corresponding Australia, around 10 or 11 different species of glider. So you could be mistaking it for another species, but, hmm, yeah, I was wondering that too, though. So species that appear to have come back from the dead was made possible. I mean, I guess this isn't too surprising in Papua New Guinea because there are many, actually, in recent years, instances of where new species have occurred. But kind of like with many species of dinosaurs that we've seen in recent years, it's not that necessarily they were discovered randomly in the forest, but they ended up being just stuck in a certain laboratory, museum, or institute shelf, and they were rediscovered, in quote,
yes, 40 years later.
or just discovered. Yeah, well, I guess the term would be classified or described.
No, a bunch of them hadn't been found, remember? They were doing articles on them where they didn't even have to find them. They just saw something sticking out of a crate.
Um, yeah, I guess, yeah, that is true. I was just referring to them just having it, but they didn't know exactly what they were dealing with. So it was made possible by piecing together evidence gathered across the globe, which included the only known specimen held at the Australian Museum, collected in 1992 and misidentified at the time. Rare photographs taken by local researchers, as well as fossil fragments. Um, yeah, technically, you can still call um, creatures that existed in the earlier Holocene epoch or just after the Pleistocene or the Ice Age fossils. It's just once you step into the Pleistocene or the Ice Age, and then everybody just thinks, ooh. But afterwards, I guess it somewhat loses its appeal, unless you're talking about a mammoth or maybe the stellar sea cow. That was very recent. Okay, it just varies on the animal. A long-standing relationship between Professor Flannery and researchers from the University of Papua, alongside working with local elders from the Tambrau and Maybrat Brat clans, was pivotal in understanding the remote location and gaining insight into the local knowledge about the marsupials. The discovery of one Lazarus taxon, even if thought to have become extinct recently, is an exceptional discovery. But the discovery of two species thought to have been extinct for thousands of years is remarkable, Professor Tim Flannery said. Findings underscore the critical importance of preserving these unique bioregions and the value of collaborative research in covering and protecting hidden biodiversity. Okay, where is this thing? I'm guessing these are the scientists. The pygmy long-fingered possum, Dactylonax kemboii, is a boldly striped marsupial with a remarkable adaptation. One digit on each hand is twice the length of the next longest finger. It's interesting. It's almost like they evolved convergent, like evolutionary characteristics or mutations, like the eye over in Madagascar. So the species appears which uses its elongated finger to snatch grubs from inside the bark. It's also very possible that back in the late Jurassic, you can say maybe mid Jurassic, around 165 to 170 million years ago in China, there are early relatives of the Paraves and the Dromaeosaur lineage, um, so from China, called Epidezipteryx, and it has a very long, elongated, I believe, ring finger that it's likely used to also extract grubs from tree trunks as well. So it is interesting. You have it where dinosaurs, placental mammals, and marsupial mammals evolved almost the exact same trait. So the species appears to have vanished from Australia during the Ice Age, the geological epoch when iconic megafauna such as the Diprotodon the 3-ton wombats, depending on the species of Diprotodon that we're referring to, and the marsupial lion, the subject of a newly unveiled Australian museum exhibition surviving Australia, also became extinct. The marsupial lion is not a actually, let's bring him up. It's not a real species of lion. I don't know when this name came into contact or who came up with it. Okay, Thylacoleo, Thylaco. No, it would be Caleo. So this animal is from Australia during the Ice Age or the Pleistocene epoch, well over 250,000 years ago. And it mysteriously went extinct about 40 to 50,000 years ago, around the same time as the rest of the megafauna on the island. You had the massive different species of Diprotodontidae. You could even say like the Diprotodontomorphs, the largest species of wombats. The Diprotodon is likely the species towards the right, the like the largest, and then you had a wide variety of other different genre and species of giant wombats existed in prehistoric Australia.
This doesn't look anything like the others.
That is a Thylacoleo. And what is also very peculiar about this species of marsupial is that it has very distinct tooth structure compared to almost every single, actually, you could say literally every single species of big cat today, even of the canid lineage. This is not a species of cat. It's not a placental. Placentals are animals like polar bears, um, people, elephants, giraffes, lions, wolves, whereas this is a marsupial. So it's more closely related to kangaroos, wombats, echidnas,
I hope the thing
platypus.
is climbing because I would think that'd make it awfully hard to be able to walk.
It's also likely that the animal might have somewhat curled its thumb claw, but I'll have to double check on that. It's very possible it probably efficiently walks on the ground with them, but it just wasn't really built for speed. This animal um likely was an ambush predator. But it's weird because this animal has the tooth structure in many cases to that of like a beaver, even of the giant beavers during the Ice Age that used to inhabit different parts of North America, Eurasia, such as the 600-pound Castroides, or weighing well over 280 kilograms. So let's see. Okay, so yeah, here it seems to be there's some youngsters about to feed on some smaller kangaroo. And then over on the left, you have it where Thylacoleo is probably ambushing the giant short-faced kangaroos in the region, which now it seems that it's a much more accepted theory for the giant short-faced kangaroos like Procoptodon to have been able to jump despite weighing much more than today's largest red kangaroos, which top out around 200 pounds or pushing 90 kilograms. And the Procoptodons could probably weigh in around 4 to 500 pounds, pushing over 200 kilograms.
Okay, so this depiction looks like a weird house cat.
Yeah, I don't know who this would represent. It's definitely not a Thylacoleo. Thylacoleo did not have canines, um, nor even like bottom, like upper or bottom canines, like different species of cats today do, and definitely not to the extent of or anything like the saber-toothed cats or the members of the Machaerodontidae lineage of Feliformis.
Okay, these look like they're just overfed.
Yeah, they still have tooth issues, but yeah, they look like they're doing a bit better. Now, like Leo's interesting. It definitely has a very it's always portrayed as having kind of a wide sort of a face compared to many other carnivorous predators. This isn't necessarily, you could say, too surprising to an extent. When you look at certain members of the family of placental mammals like raccoons, red pandas, I mean, you could say even bears in general. The red pandas are a bit more distantly related to bears. They don't belong to Ursidae. They're their own group, but they are related. They're quite wide faced, which is interesting. But you could say a similar thing with a wolf, maybe even a Siberian tiger. Um, But yeah, I think this is just it's a very wide accumulation. What is odd is they added like an extra tooth between like the side, the flat molar area and like the rodent incisor dentition to the front, which is odd. Unless it's been found on another Thylacoleo. Oh, that's interesting. If you look at how they're positioning the toes on the bottom, because you were concerned about how it came or how it would come into
It's showing
contact
it
with the ground.
reversed.
Um,
Yeah, it's showing it reversed right here.
yeah, right there, but on the other foot,
It's not.
it's aligned with the rest of the toes. Um, kind of like when you're looking at different species of raptors or dromaeosaurs from the Mesozoic era, it's very possible when they walked, their toes might have directed towards the ground slightly, but not really having a negative impact at all when it came to walking and running.
Yeah, well, those are huge.
Yeah, those could definitely do a lot of damage to a giant short-faced kangaroo, the giant koalas at the time, which were far larger than today's koalas. Like reaching well over 80 pounds or pushing over 35 kilograms. Today, the largest koala barely reaches over 20 pounds or pushing around 7 to 8 kilograms.
Okay,
And
I just like their nose.
yeah, all of these different species of diprotodontids also were quite herbivorous. So they're feeding on different species of shrubs, roots, possibly different species of flowers. When you look at the skulls of these giant diprotodontids, they do have very large snout. So it's very likely that they would have had a very large nose in the same case. And also probably having a very well equipped sense of smell, probably to help track down water and fresh vegetation. It might have been, when it came to certain species, very efficient at simply just feeding on certain types of vegetation to basically knock out the need for water. And I'm guessing that would really be for the smaller species of diprotodontids, possibly even the koalas too. But koalas today, really, they love water. Okay, so wow, that's three very separate locations. Apparently, they're in the somewhat lower altitudes and the higher altitudes in the mountains. That's interesting. Oh, wait a second. Okay, so they're here. Um, the second discovery. Okay, so this is referring to that's um. Okay, so on the right is the possum, the Dictolonax, and um the island over on the left hand side. I think is referring to the glider. That is interesting. So that's where we're seeing the difference in elevations with the glider. We have no idea with the possum, but it looks like it's probably more in the mountainous regions. So likely just staying in the high altitude, which seems to be the case with certain species of possums. For instance, the American possum really only find it in low altitudes. Let's see what else is going on. So the second discovery, the ring-tailed glider, Toyas ayamorensis, is the nearest living relative of the Australian greater glider and represents the first new genus of New Guinean marsupial described since 1937, smaller than its Australian cousins, with unfurred ears and a strongly prehensile tail. The ring-tailed glider forms lifelong pair bonds and only raises one young annually.
Unfurred sounds funny.
Yeah, it does. I think there's another word for that, but
Furless?
yeah, that would be better. Like greater gliders, the species nests in tree hollows in the tallest forest trees and faces threats from logging. Oh, there he is. Yeah, I mean, his prehensile tail. It's almost like that of a chameleon, too, which is not too surprising depending on the species of mammal. The glider holds deep cultural significance. Okay, it's just talking about the people. Okay, so there are the other locations. Okay, we're trying to see if there's just anything else about the glider. I think that's it. Okay. Oh, wait. No, it's not. So he's about 300 grams. Okay, there's 1,000 grams in a kilogram. Kilogram's about 2.2 pounds. So he weighs around half a pound? No, 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 nowhere near that.
Oh, wait. Oh,
Not entirely sure. Um, so possibly sap, some leaves. Yeah, that is the interesting thing. I mean, it's not surprising that they don't know very much about this creature. I mean, they've just rediscovered it. Habitat rainforest, that's specific. There are several different types of rainforests throughout the world, and even in just certain areas
you might have been right.
um, where there's like a certain basic type of rainforest, there's still different types of ecosystems within that area. But I'm not too familiar with the Papua New Guinean ecosystem.
No, it's over half a pound.
It is?
It's 10.58 ounces, so almost 10.
Oh, wow. Hmm. Well, it's not too surprising for a glider. I mean, that's not bad.
Yeah, but it wouldn't make a very good meal. Your face.
Marsupials are off limits. Okay, let's see. I think that's it. Yeah. Okay. This is good to see with the glider and the possum, both which are technically possums. Okay, so members of I think Poturridae. Let's head over back to the Mesozoic era. So from Sci News, small Cretaceous crocodile may have preyed on baby titanosaurs. There are certain species of crocodilomorphs and members of the Pseudosuchian lineage of Archosauromorphs who we have found from the Cretaceous period as well as the Jurassic. You could even go back to the Triassic period that likely would have hunted the different species of prosauropods and sauropods from these different time periods. So it wasn't just the different species of carnivorous dinosaurs, the titanosaurs, especially when they were younger. Well, sauropods in general, prosauropods, their ancestors, had to be concerned about. There were also the crocodilomorphs and well, the land-based crocodilomorphs as well. You also had, depending on where you were, certain semi-aquatic species. There were a number that were about the size of today's saltwater crocodile, which is about 20 feet in length. They're pushing 6 meters and can weigh slightly over a ton. They're pushing 2,500 pounds or a little over 1,200 kilograms. So, but then you had a handful of much larger species. Then you had these guys. The what pseudosuchian is this? It's not hitting me at the moment. Okay, a new genus and species of Sebecosuchian. Whoa, here we go. These animals have or would exist until the Pliocene epoch, or somewhere around 3 million years ago. Crocodiliform that roamed Earth during the Cretaceous period has been identified from a partial skeleton found in a titanosaur nesting area in Catalonia, Spain. Whoa. Okay, I was thinking we were going to head right back to Argentina. This is over in Spain. Quite astonishing. Named Ograsuchus ferratus. The ancient crocodile lived approximately 71.5 million years ago.
They just call it a crocodile.
Yeah, the problem is at this point, alligator pteroideae had evolved, but that doesn't really necessarily contain the crocodile, especially at this point. You had different species of caimans that had been around for about 9 million years, but crocodiles wouldn't really start evolving until the Oligocene about 30 million years ago. And modern, like today's crocodiles specifically, wouldn't evolve until the last 2 to 3 million years. Some in the past a few 100,000 years. So this is specifically just a crocodilomorph, but a sebosuchid is also very helpful, or sebecid. It belongs to the family Sebecidae in the clade Sebecosuchiae, a group of highly specialized crocodiliforms that diversified during the Cretaceous and persisted until the end of the Miocene.
Wait, I always get confused. Crocodiliform and crocodilomorph.
Um,
What's the difference?
say what's the difference between a crocodilian and a crocodilomorph?
No, a crocodile.
Crocodiliform and crocodilomorph, I believe, are two. Um, there might be a slight difference in definition, but they're practically the same thing. But it covers the broad lineage of pseudosuchians. So all crocodilians are crocodilomorphs, but not all crocodilomorphs are crocodilians. Very few when it comes to the whole family tree. Crocodilomorphs are crocodilians, and few existed during the Mesozoic era. These creatures were active terrestrial predators that could even compete with medium-sized carnivorous dinosaurs. This would depend on the species of crocodilomorph. Also, the question is, were these animals somewhat pack hunters? And in many cases, it does seem that they were quite quick. Some of these animals reaching well over 25 miles per hour, possibly even pushing 30 in some instances with the larger species. Maybe reaching somewhere around 55 kilometers an hour. Pretty astonishing.
I thought you were gonna say 55 miles an hour. I'm like, What?"
I don't know of any. Let's see. What was another thing? Algrasuchus ferratus was about 1.1 meters or 3.6 feet long and had a body mass of 9 kilograms or pushing around 20 to 22 pounds. It's one of the smaller species, making it one of the smallest and lightest Sebecosuchids ever discovered. But this animal is definitely capable of taking on a Titanosaur egg. The main feature of Sebecids is that, unlike extinct crocodiles, they had their limbs under their body, said lead author Dr. Albert Celeste, a paleontologist at the Institute Catala. Okay, de Paleontologique, Miquel Crucifont, the Universitat Autónoma de Barcelona, and the
Oh my god.
Museu de la Concadella. This anatomical trait would have allowed the animal to move in a similar way to extant mammals and become efficient predators. Yeah, that's the issue when it comes to identifying the difference between like a reptile and this animal, or specifically just linking it to the reptile lineage. The hips to the side usually indicate that it's a true reptile, but this is one of those instances where it doesn't really help. And the same thing you would have to look at for like different marine reptiles in the ocean. Um, they have a completely different type of anatomy, yet they are still reptiles. Dinosaurs are not. They are derived from reptiles, but they're not reptiles. So I'm guessing this is a crocodile. Yeah, it's him. And they found part of the cranial area of his skull. That's always good to see. Definitely many complete back vertebrae, some of the ribs, at least the back five, the complete femur bone or thigh bone, parts of the shin bones, and even
His foot.
the upper, I believe, ulna or the forearm, and not necessarily his phalanges or his fingers, but part of his palm, and a little bit of the tail vertebrae and or the caudal vertebrae, as well as right above the pelvis. Some of the teeth are intact too. The skeletal remains of Ograsuchus ferratus and numerous eggshell fragments were found in a nesting ground of Titanosaurian dinosaurs at the paleontological site of El Morador in Col de Nargo area, Lleida province, Catalonia. Probably the young dinosaurs were not its main source of food, but they would have been an easy prey, according to the anatomical features of this crocodile. Well, it probably would have been a somewhat seasonal food source, kind of like with many instances when it comes to different types of predators, even today. It's just a specific time of year. And then afterwards, this animal would likely be focusing on different species of insects, smaller amphibians, and reptiles. And
Is the insects because they like crunchy food?
probably maybe there's something juicy about them. I'm not entirely sure. There's huge cockroaches, so it's very likely. And I'm not sure when it comes to locusts or grasshoppers at this point. True grass really hasn't evolved yet, at least the different species that would occur even to today. They won't evolve until about 30 million years ago during the Oligocene epoch. So, Agritucus ferratus also represents the earliest record of Sebecidae worldwide, and the first known from Eurasia. Oh, I didn't know this. Well, this is astounding to hear. We've got one now, specifically in Eurasia. I thought maybe there were certain other species. I guess I confused it with another South American species because they would continue on into the Cenozoic era. So they survived the dinosaur mass extinction. Agarasuchus ferratus is 10 million years older than any other cebecid known to date. So this finding drives us to redefine the evolutionary history of the whole family. So he's not only not in South America, he's over in a completely different part of the world and was deciding about to take over the world. So that's this is astounding to hear.
Did you say he was deciding to take over the world?
I mean, basically,
Okay.
he's just starting out here. According to our interpretation, Sebestids may have originated prior to the full break of Gondwana. Well, because even at this point, you still had it where a bit of the Earth was connected. That's how you had it, where even the Cretaceous, different lineages of dinosaurs, were still easily migrating from one part of the Earth to another, knocking out Eurasia. So, yeah, this is really good to see. Okay. Well, thanks for joining. And from prehistoric to present, my name is Ethan. This is Creature Guy Live Daily News. Happy International Titanosaurmorph Day. And from remember, nothing's better than all animals all the time. And we are streaming on both Rumble,